welcome back to our October webinar. My name is Ali from the HiBob team, and today's chat is all about compensation. So a few housekeeping matters right away. First, on the topic of compensation, in the handout section of GoToWebinar, you can see two great assets there for you to download for free. One is our beginner's guide to creating your first compensation plan, and the second one is a document on why you should use HR Tech for compensation management. Both of them are completely free for you to download. If you have any troubles downloading them, put it in the chat and I'll try and help, or we can send them to you separately. But please take a second to download those. Additionally, as always, this webinar today is panel style. So I have two amazing panelists here with us who are going to share their wealth of experience and their perspective on compensation strategy. And as always, we love to take questions from the audience. So please put in the chat box questions that you have. If you want to remain anonymous, that's totally fine. Just put that in the question box as well. But with all of that in mind, we'll go ahead and get started. So compensation, right? A really tricky subject for a couple of reasons. First, everything we've heard from the HiBob customer community has told us that this is a really hot topic, particularly over the last few months, with everybody working from home, with the world of business really changing and adapting and evolving over the last 6 months. The issue of compensation, particularly as we reach the end of the year, is only going to become more and more prevalent at fast-growing modern companies. The Wall Street Journal actually did a survey where they sampled about 8,000 companies in the US, Canada, and the UK, and only 38% of employers have a formal compensation structure or philosophy guiding their pay decisions. So with that in mind, we're hoping that we can help you out today, give you a little bit of guidance, or if nothing else, at least share some insights from some people who are in the field living this life day in and day out, just like all of you. So with that in mind, I'd love to introduce my panelists. First up, I have Claudia Ginex, who is joining us from the Gaming Innovation Group as the Director of People Operations. So hi, Claudia. So thank you so much for joining us. I also have Khatidja Tjon-Atsoi, who's joining us as the Corporate HR Officer at NewMotion. So, these two panelists both actually do completely different things, and I'll let them introduce themselves in a moment. But really happy to have them here on the line to answer any questions you have about compensation strategy, benefits, anything like that. And then we'll dive in. So without any further ado, Claudia, will you introduce yourself to our audience?
Yeah, sure. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. It depends in which time zone you're based. I am Claudia. I'm the Director of People Ops at GIG, Gaming Innovation Group. It's an iGaming company based in Malta, with headquarters in Malta and other offices in Spain and Denmark. I have been joining this company 4 years ago, almost, and lived in Malta for the last 5 years. Now I'm moving towards Spain, so my journey in the company is moving across countries. At the moment, I'm in Italy, stuck a bit in the COVID scenario, as you can understand. Of course, it's not easy to travel between countries at the moment, so that's where I am. At GIG, I'm leading a team of around 23 people in People Ops, so I have HR, talent acquisition, internal communication, learning and development, and facilities. So I've been in this role now since a year almost, together with my maternity leave included. So I have also a baby girl, 1 year old. And I'm more than happy to share my experience with you in the audience, and happy also to share my details afterwards if you have any other questions you want to raise after the webinar. So looking forward.
Amazing. Thank you, Claudia. Khatidja, introduce yourself for our audience as well.
Hi, I'm Khatidja. I'm working with NewMotion for 2.5 years. NewMotion is located in France, Germany, UK, and we're also having some employees working from the Nordics and Spain and Italy. I'm responsible for all the support on HR, so I'm not the business partner, but I'm responsible for making sure that everybody gets their benefits, that the changes in HiBob are clear. Yeah, that's me.
Great. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for joining us. It is really incredible to have you both on the line because It really stays true to the HiBob spirit. Both of you work for global companies, supporting global teams in a bunch of different locations. That's very much the spirit in which we work as well, having global offices all over and supporting companies who have people all over. So thank you so much for joining us in your different time zones. So right now we'll dive in a little bit into the panel discussion. Like I mentioned earlier to our audience, feel free to, in the question section of GoToWebinar, ask any questions about comp, pay structures, anything like that to our panelists, and we'll do our best to answer them. And then I'm also taking questions that we collected ahead of time as well. Towards the end of our session today, I have another special treat for you. Raz Nimrati, our head of US operations here at HiBob, is going to be introducing our new compensation management tool to the audience for the very first time. So you guys will get an exclusive look at that. But before that, let's dive into the panel discussion. So I think the first thing that everybody wants to know when they're approaching the idea of a compensation strategy is how you put together a pay package. So I would love to hear from you, Claudia, just like from 101, your philosophy on putting together a pay package and how you've implemented it at GIG.
Yeah, so from our end, we always have the principle that the base salary is not everything. So we put together pay packages that are variable composed by multiple things. Of course, there is the base amount that is based on local benchmark, internal and external. So we have data coming our way from different sources. But then we have, of course, everything else related also to variable pay. So the one-off bonus, entry bonus, or something maybe related to some specific projects that the position is to accomplish within a certain timeline. But what really is making the difference for us is our cultural perks and benefits. So we have a development and training budget. We already present our candidates with their career path, more or less how it will look like in the short and medium term. And we also, of course, provide them with perks that are better than what the law in each specific country sometimes provides. Let me give you an example on paternity leave. We offer to our all employees 30 days paid paternity leave, while it's in Malta, it's just 1 day. So when it comes to compensation packages, what is my recommendation is really and truly do not focus all your efforts only on looking at numbers and salary-based levels. Try to think on what you and your company can actually do for employees that is more than what other competitors maybe are doing or the normal standard regulatory framework is providing. So we also take, of course, into consideration different tenure and seniority than the company. So we are trying to put in place some retention plans as well already at hiring stage. So we have a path for everyone joining gig that is lasting minimum 2 years. That for the gaming industry, believe me, is like a long term.
Yeah, I mean, 2 years is a great retention period, and it's clear that it's working out for you guys. You know, Khatidja, I'd love to ask you, since you lead the operations or the support side of things. You know, HR puts together these pay packages, they put together these guidelines. You know, and I'm sure you're in communication with different people to make sure that it's all implemented. Do you have any strategy on how to make sure that these guidelines are followed across the business or the communication around stuff like this?
Well, we communicate for each new employee. We communicate these are the benefits, and these are all stated in their contract. Additionally, we also have the benefits mentioned on HiBob. So we use benefits to make sure they are enrolled, so they know what they're entitled to or are option to have in their secondary benefits. And if they have questions, we use the intranet additionally next to HiBob to make sure that they are aware of what's possible. We have, for example, for the whole company, either if you're in the UK or in the Netherlands, you have a training budget, and that's each year the same amount. So everybody has the same. You get a feeling of including everybody because everybody gets the same.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I think, you know, like for fast growing companies or for modern companies where there's a lot of changes, particularly global companies like the ones both of you represent, it can be so hard to know what's available for you as an employee. You know, I can testify so many times in my past career where I had no idea that there was this certain perk available or this benefit available until someone told me. So being able to centralize that communication is critical. Claudia, can you share a little bit of insight into, you mentioned you have this large HR team supporting you and how they communicate directly with hiring managers and how recruiters can make sure that the alignment on comp discussions is uniform across the company. I'd love to hear a little bit about how you keep the house tightened and locked as far as the guidelines go there.
It's not easy. So let's start from the truth that we are a young company as well when it comes to, we started our journey in 2015, so we're not so old there. And at the beginning, I still remember when I joined, the candidates were getting contacted by HR, talent acquisition, hiring managers, the friend of the hiring managers, recruiting agencies. So that was becoming super messy. What we did is, of course, while it's building the team, that before was just 2 people, now, as I said, we are a bit bigger. We build this trust relationship with our leaders. So I have talent acquisition partners and people partners, and that's why I like to call them that way, because they really are building up relationship with hiring managers. And we took a charge of the whole process. So what we did is we had an ATS that started to put a bit of order on data. We started to use the data provided from this ATS to build up our strategy around talent acquisition. And we then created a process. So we created a process that is fully handled by the talent acquisition partners. They are the ones that are organizing everything from the briefing meeting to the offer meeting. So the candidate gets just one point of contact throughout the process. Does, of course, the interviews with the hiring manager and who of the team needs to be involved in the process. However, when it comes to talk about money or the offer stage, is handled completely from us, from my team. And we have also included this full process in a mandatory leadership program. So we call it Hiring Manager Toolkit. It has been an effort of the last 6 months of the talent acquisition team, and they build up this fully virtual now guideline. We hope to be able, of course, to have face-to-face workshops going forward, but that is really helping us in making sure that even a new manager in gig knows what the process looks like, knows who to contact to hire a new person, knows who the talent partner is or the HR partner is, and takes things forward together with them in a trusted relationship.
Got it. Yeah, I think that structure is so important, and it's good that you put together a playbook or a guideline document of sorts. I think like memorializing that stuff is so helpful, because otherwise it can just get messy, like you said, very quickly. I'm seeing a lot of questions here from our audience on sort of compensation philosophy, and so I'd love to talk to both of you a little bit about this. So, there's many schools of thought. Some people think compensation should be tied really closely to performance. Some think it should be tied closely to tenure. I'd love to hear your individual perspectives and sort of, what you've learned along the way, positives, negatives, anything you can share with our audience.
If I can start, there is not a right or a wrong way of doing so. It all depends from the company and the culture also you're working with. So in my previous experience, I was working for Louis Vuitton, massive company, retail shops everywhere, very small budgets available for compensation and benefits part. So that was a process that was following strict percentage increases, strict benchmarking. That was working fine because employees joining it were aware that Louis Vuitton has these rules and cultures going on. In gig is a completely different story. We are in Malta, Spain, Denmark. This is a smaller entity, only 450 employees. We need to adapt to new regulations, new scenarios, and new technologies on a daily basis, I would say, not hourly. So we need to be more agile. We need to be an HR agile team of professionals. So this year we didn't match performance ratings with salary reviews. Next year we might do so, because we need to adapt on the needs of our people and our managers in order to have the right team in place. So what I would suggest here to each professional is do not try to find a gold reply to this question. Know the business, know the people you're working with, and build a strategy that will bring them to succeed. Don't stick to rules here.
Very well said. Khatidja, any insights to share there?
Yeah, well, we have this development plan for the whole year where we track how are you doing. These are the goals you set together with your manager, and during the year you are keeping track on how is it going? Are you on track? Are you still confident? Do you need assistance? And by the end of the year, your manager rates your performance. And based on that, there's this specific guideline. If you got a poor, you're rated poor, then you get only an increase based on inflation and so on and so on. So it's specifically and determined quite prior to rating what your salary increase will be, and for the next year in new goals are set. So that makes it clear. How clear you make it, how easier it will be for new employees to get in touch with how it's working.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think from both of you, totally different approaches, but I think what I'm taking away is that I think the transparency and the clarity for employees is super important. Nobody wants to be in the dark about, you know, their financial wellness at a company or their financial growth potential. And so I think, you know, some careers like maybe sales or go-to-market or recruitment, where there's a commission base, it's a little bit easier to tell. But for some other careers, it can be totally a mystery. And so I think adding that clarity into like what exactly your company does across the board is really critical. You know, there was a question from Lenore DeVries asking about this balance between performance reviews being tied to comp and not, and I think we got a couple of good nuggets of insight here. You know, I think I want to also add that this is a big part of how we put together the HiBob platform, is really to like facilitate this two-way communication between managers and employees. So it's not just everybody fills out a review once a year and then it's done and put in a filing cabinet, never looked at again, collecting dust. It's supposed to be an iterative and ongoing process. And so I think both of you touched on that as well. I would love to move forward. We have another question here asking about retention and using compensation management as a tool for retaining employees. Claudia, you mentioned that you're looking to obviously retain employees for 2 years plus, which for a modern, fast-growing business is a really long time. Give us some insight into sort of your strategy on using compensation as a retention mechanism.
Yeah, there, of course, it depends a lot from the department and the kind of position and the responsibilities that you are targeting. So our key value here is transparency, as you actually said. We are keeping our employees abreast of what is coming very regularly. So we are encouraging constant feedback culture. Now that, of course, we have Bob supporting us, the tool, of course, is helping us throughout, not having just conversations going on, but also to record some data around it. However, what I can say that also plays a big difference together with variable pay. Again, as I mentioned, you can have one-off lump sums, bonus schemes related to specific projects that needs to be completed for the company success and so forth, is also the importance of recognition. Recognition is slightly different from what is a reward and the compensation review strategy. Recognition can start with a simple thank you, sometimes in the easiest way, but can be also like, exactly, it can be also then project accomplishments events, like we used to have a lot of these before COVID times in our facilities and social events gatherings. And that is also part of keeping employees happy and engaged on what is the company achieving in terms of results. Then we also use objectives and key results as a retention strategy. Again, to provide transparency and alignment towards team and organization, we make sure that every employee knows how to contribute to the big picture of the company. We are not there yet, so I need to be honest. There is a lot of work to do to get that fully working on, but where actually the departments are getting up to speed in using that framework, we can see already some good results.
Fair enough. Khatidja, anything to add on the link between sort of employees sticking around longer versus compensation strategy?
Yeah, we have people. We have a lot of people joining, but also people leaving because of the culture. They expect a certain culture, and that's also what we marketeer this is a young company, we're growing, you have a lot of growth potential, and if they're coming in and it's not the same expectation, sometimes they leave. Sometimes we need to change their idea of how NewMotion works. But regarding, yeah, that's it's difficult. I do get that, because we have the last couple of maybe year, we have people leaving that are working more than 5 years at NewMotion. And for me, I'm a little bit of a job hopper, so I normally stay in a company for 5, 6 years and then move on. So I do get that. After a while, sometimes you need a new environment, a new company, but that's not always the case. I do have a lot of people staying in for maybe 8 years or something. So we are indeed a really young company.
Yeah, and I think, look, there's no, like we've all talked about, there's no perfect recipe here, but I think it's interesting that link. I think we'll start to see more and more data around, a well-structured compensation plan that's transparent, that's clear, and how long people are able to retain employees. I know something that everybody on this call can probably relate to who's in HR, and I know I've been responsible for doing it myself as a hiring manager or as a people manager. Is when someone approaches me with a tricky question about compensation, I'm like, talk to HR. So when I'm sure this happens to both of you all the time. People, you get copied on emails, or people walk into your office, whether virtually or in person, to ask questions about comp, and you're not familiar with the situation. How have you set up your organizational structure to account for this? Because there's a lot of tricky, awkward conversations that managers sometimes don't want to have with employees, particularly around compensation, and that can is kicked into HR's office. So tell me how both of you handle it. Khatidja, why don't you start us off?
We do get these questions. So the setup of our company is always refer back to the hiring manager. They're always responsible for how they want to fill in this position that the person is doing. And if they have questions related to, we always have a specific moment of doing salary increases or changes for levels or stuff like that. That's always the end of the year. But sometimes during the year, we also get those moments, but it's not during the whole year to have, oh yeah, please give this person a new salary increase, or no, we have specific moments. Exceptions are always there, but that's the process we have.
Yeah, setting clear boundaries and guidelines, particularly with hiring managers, is really critical. Claudia, any insight to share on sort of what you do when you're surprised by these attacks?
Yeah, at the beginning, of course, again, it's a journey. So as soon as you join a new company, it depends which kind of level of maturity in the leadership also you find. So what I have decided to do together with my team is really invest in the leadership in this case. So we don't tackle this conversation with employees directly immediately. We invest on the leader first. So we explain to him or her what are the principles. So we spend time coaching and guiding the leaders so that they can be able to take over this conversation directly with their team members, because at the end the team members work with the manager on a daily basis, so there is no need for HR to jump in this kind of conversation, or at least that's my opinion. Maybe at the beginning, in your case, I might have been together with you and your team member in the same room, trying to explain and be the neutral, like the Switzerland they use on kind of scenario. But then hopefully after this commitment from my side in coaching you and handling this conversation, the next round you will be perfectly equipped to handle this conversation alone without actually having any doubt. And still, even in case of doubts, again, you have your people partner there to support you and to solve any kind of problem that you might have with specific feedback. But that's a journey that each leader needs to do if he wants to progress further in leadership roles.
Of course. And it ties back into something that we've talked about a little bit today, which is sort of this idea of HR enablement, which is, again, a really hot topic. I think particularly apt in compensation, because those conversations can be very tricky when it comes to legality, when it comes to liability. And so even experienced managers can sometimes be afraid or a little hesitant in having those talks. So I think what both of you have talked about in terms of Khatidja setting clear guidelines as to what happens and doesn't happen at your company, with occasional exceptions, and Claudia, for you, talking about setting the expectations with hiring managers that this is something that they own and teaching them and coaching them on how to do it. Both like excellent strategies. I know that, again, within the Bob platform, this type of communication is something that we facilitate. People are able to sort of leave comments on goals. HR and hiring managers are able to communicate. And so I think it facilitates this type of internal communication that ultimately is all being done to enhance the employee experience, right? So, all right, so switching gears a little bit, we have a few questions here, focusing a little bit more on the talent acquisition side. So, both of you work for companies that are growing, have a really solid modern approach to HR, want to find the best talent. When you're thinking about the relationship between opening a new role and compensation, like where do you get the information? How do you know that you're setting your recruiters and your employees up for success, and how does that process work?
Should I start again?
Let's do it.
Yeah. I really rely a lot on the expertise of my talent acquisition team. So I'm hiring in my team experts on data analytics. That is one of the key areas for me, knowing the data and know where to find them as well. At Gig in particular, we've also been lucky that we have more than 45 countries represented in our employees field. So we also get actually data live from people living in specific countries. So we get their feedback internally, and we also use externally salary benchmarking. They're mostly available for free in all the EU countries. And then, of course, talent acquisition knows where to find, in the case, the niche specific one that can be also paid for. But we are managing now to handle everything internally with my TA girls. So.
Khatidja, what about you guys when you open your?
Yeah, well, we have a recruitment team who is quite good at what they're doing. They are responsible for making sure that they capture or hire somebody that is fit for the team. So they know new motion, they know 90% of the employees and know what's needed in a team. They also discuss with the hiring manager, what are you specifically looking for? And based on that information and also benchmarking, all that are pieces of the pie that makes it work. It's just not one part, all the parts together work. So that's the way of working with emotion.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That question was for Amber Hammock, talking about what sources you guys use. Is there any particular web resource or anywhere where you go to sort of find information on salaries to make sure that you're competitive?
It varies all the time, because it depends again from the country you work with and the specific job role. Just to get an example, tech roles in Malta change salary benchmarking on us every 6 months. So you really need to know where to go and find the specific data you're looking for. And in Malta works very well. There are recruitment agencies that do benchmarking across the island, but it's a small island, so it gets easy for them to have a realistic approach. In Spain, it's a big country compared to Malta, so we really need to rely more on local cost of living and benchmarking data. But again, you need to hire an expert in that field. Can be TA, can be HR, can be both. It depends on the resources that you have, but the experts know where to find data. You need to find a local one.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think I want to call back to something that, Claudia, you said earlier in today's discussion, which is that it's not always about comp as a number. In terms of money, there are a lot of other benefits that you can offer people. And this leads into a question from Lenore. A lot of companies are scale-ups, are trying to sort of stretch the amount of money that they have in terms of offering benefits. So, she would love some ideas from both of you on sort of budget-friendly benefits that you can add to your overall comp package to help, enhance your offering, to a candidate that maybe won't cost a lot of money on the back end? Anything creative that you guys have come up with that, you know, employees have really enjoyed or that candidates have really been magnetized towards?
We have, for example, a lunch package. For the Netherlands, it's a lunch prepared at the office that was prior Corona. So you would pay a gross amount based on your salary, and then you get each day a lunch meal at the office with a salad included, or soup, or a little bit of pasta. So it's that's a part of that. It's cheaper to buy or provide a lunch than go and buy it. Not for all the offices we have this option, but it's in the Netherlands quite an attractive feature.
Yeah, so many people in our customer community have shared that, like, when they're thinking about budget-friendly benefits, it's really all about multi-purpose things, right? So providing lunch to your employees isn't just about the food itself, though that's great, and it's a cost saving for them out of their personal budget, but it also is like creating a time where people can maybe engage with each other, get to know people. It enhances a culture as well. And so you're sort of throwing two benefits out of one. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Claudia, I think we lost you for just a moment, but we were talking about, potentially Lenore from our audience asked about budget-friendly benefits when you're trying to really stretch out your dollar or whatever currency in the 40 different territories you work in. When you're trying to stretch out your currency and make a more appealing comp package, what are some creative sort of budget-friendly benefits that you've been able to offer?
Well, I'm really proud of the health insurance, for example. Like we had an health insurance budget. We managed, of course, through procurement to find the best deal when it comes to different companies providing these packages for corporate. And it has been good because, again, before COVID, we were traveling a lot, especially between locations, and also to reach out to our clients that are based all around the world now, even in the US. So that is a good benefit that at least is keeping, the employees safe as well in terms of health and wellness. And we also allow them to enroll their dependents, so wife, husband, children, babies at beneficial rates. And that is getting very on high demand across our locations. So.
Yeah, someone from our audience is actually suggesting, from a learning development perspective, it makes a lot of sense to bring people in. That way they can do a speech or do training for many people at once, as opposed to having to do it one-on-one. And so, using sort of tools that can be done at scale, like the lunches that Khatidja talked about, or bringing in a teacher or a coach or a speaker to help many people in one session, as opposed to one-on-one, can really help extend, the lifespan of whatever benefits you're doing. So moving forward, I kind of want to touch on the last part of this, and our panelists have been great. So if you have any final questions to get in here, please go ahead and submit them. I really wanted to talk about compensation management as a concept and as a tool, and how it works. So first, Khatidja, I'd love to ask you, like when you're thinking about developing compensation strategy, what are some of the tech tools that you guys use to help you out with this? Anything stand out in terms of helping you guys stay organized?
Well, now we have HiBob. Prior, we had nothing. So yeah, I'm as a support employee, I'm quite ecstatic. But yeah, for me, when I check on our benefits in HiBob, it's so easy to see what's there, and that's easy also for the employees to see this. So otherwise, yeah, we had maybe Excel sheets.
Yeah,
and that's not
not
or
ideal.
internet. It's also
right.
But no, yeah, the benefits in HiBob are indeed, quite good benefits.
Our product team will really glad to hear that. And I think actually what you're talking about, doing a lot of this in spreadsheets, is what it's a dreaded thing for, I know, all HR leaders to be working in spreadsheets, but I think it's very common. Claudia, I wanted to ask you, I know you've been, piloting the HiBob compensation management module. I'd love to hear a little bit about your experience with it and sort of how it's changed this process for you.
Yeah, it has been great. So first of all, I need to thank all the Bob team because we implemented the tool in, I think, a record time, less than a month. Thanks, of course, to my team as well that worked a lot on it. And I can already tell you that saved 50% of my time because, of course, again, also with the work from home scenario, using a tool that is sharing the compensation details and the proposals directly with the manager. You don't have to organize ad hoc meetings. You don't have, to find them in their room to get them to finally get you an answer on the proposal that you have submitted. You can download immediately a master sheet where you can do all the pivot tables and still the Excel exercise that is needed at the end to have board or C-level approvals. So it really helped the transparency of the whole process. And also has halved the time both of myself and the team on working on the process per se. So in iGaming, things go fast. So we had to close a full compensation review cycle in less than 15 days. Without the help of technology here, we would have probably just spent our nights, as I was doing it since 2 years ago, in doing like Excel combined pivot tables and then making sure that you just share with the right people that needs to have it. So you need also to be with a lot of coffee in your blood to make sure that you just share with the right recipients. Bob already cleared out all that issues and challenges for me because we set up everything and then it worked.
Great. I'm so glad to hear that. With that in mind, I think there's no better next step for today's discussion than to show you a little bit of this compensation module that we've been talking about. We're so excited we've released it to the public. And like I said, our US head of operations, Roz, is going to show it to you in just a second. But before that, I wanted to take this moment to thank Claudia and Khatidja so much. These insights have been invaluable. And I think getting an understanding of what other people are doing in the space of comp, which is no one likes to talk about money, right? It's always very secret. Sharing these best practices and just sharing your opinions has, I'm sure, been invaluable for our audience. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you for inviting.
All right. Roz, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How you doing?
Yeah, we're having some trouble with your audio, Roz.
Oh, okay. Let's see here. Is that a little better?
Like a robot, Raz.
I'll try to switch out on my headphones.
I assure you he's not a robot.
Any better? More
so-
robotic?
Yes.
No, less. Now you're back to the Roz that we all know and love.
Perfect.
So with that in mind, we really want to show you a little bit of our compensation module and what we're offering to companies like the Gaming Innovation Group that Claudia is representing here today on the call. So Roz, whenever you're ready, please take it away.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you very much, and thank you for all the panelists on the call. Is everyone able to see my screen?
Yep.
Perfect. So for today, I won't go too deep into the setup of a full event because that is obviously a little bit deeper into the product and functionality. But what I did want to show was really what is coming out of the setup, and what will the admins and managers be seeing during these events. What are we bringing from within the system or from external data into these events and worksheets? How are we empowering managers or planners to really come to these events and make data-driven decisions? So I wanted to start off on an event that's already kind of in progress here within my compensation module on the left. Keep in mind that the information going into this event that we're about to go through is being collected all year round, as we kind of alluded to earlier in the conversation. We want to bring in things like performance data, goal setting data, employee recognition, and HR fields and updates throughout the year, all into these events to really just, as I said earlier, empower managers and planners to make decisions around compensation. So what we're looking at is an event that is already running that has some budget allocated specific to the base salary component. However, Bob's is not limited in any way to only evaluating base salary. We can also help to include things like variable pay, bonuses, commissions, and very soon as well, equity into these events. What you can see here, if we look into this kind of dashboard, is a view that's available for admins. Each kind of planner within this event and the hierarchy of approval for these worksheets on the left side. And as I scroll through, you'll see the current status of each worksheet, which is keeping up to date and constantly updated for the managers. And in addition to that, each breakdown by department of the budget as it's been applied and allocated, which is one of those options that we have for this setup. So there is an opportunity also here to decide on the budget only after the event is running or during the event is running, while keeping in mind kind of who is eligible and who will be receiving the increase, or as you can see here, giving that budget ahead of time and doing the full planning within the worksheets. Now, what your managers will see or your planners when they go into their worksheets is something that looks like this. First, they'll see on top which components are being evaluated during this event. Here specifically, we see only base salary, although as I said earlier, we can also bring in variable pay like bonus, commission, and MBOs, etc. What they will also see is their entire team, what their current entire team is being paid in that local currency, which we can help you to convert to, and some more information about their team, like their job title, their most recent salary effective date, their most recent performance rating, and how it compares to what we've set as a guideline during the setup. These guidelines and many more guidelines that can be set up are really in place and created by the admins to make sure that each manager knows exactly how much they can spend. If you're already allocating the budget, then you can even add in some external benchmarking data, which we will allow you to upload during the setup of the event, so each manager can know roughly how much they can increase or how much they're recommended to increase. Now, we want to try to promote collaboration as much as possible. So as I said, you as the admins or kind of the ones that are also part of this event can jump into any of these worksheets and see what your managers are working on. You can speak to them and communicate through our comment field here. And using those guidelines, you can stay on top of if a manager has deviated or a planner has deviated from the guidelines that you've set for them. So for instance, here we can see an alert because Ali here received an increase that is above the salary max range. Now, your managers will be able to action these worksheets. If an employee is eligible and has a little green V, they can jump into any one of these entries and actually write in the increases. They can do those increases both in percentages and in amounts, and the system will automatically calculate. They will be able to see the new base salary. You'll be able to see if the recommendation is within the guidelines that you've set, both on the, as we said, performance side, benchmarking side, and as increases as a whole. And once your managers are done, what they can go ahead and do is submit these worksheets, and those worksheets will be passed in the exact hierarchy of approval that you've set ahead of time. Our goal is to really cut down on the amount of time being spent here to drive collaboration and make sure that everyone is communicating throughout these events. And a really important piece for us is to empower the manager, as we said earlier, with as much data and information as possible. Your managers can also add any content or any fields from the employee profile into these worksheets to make their decisions as data-driven as possible. As you can see here, I do have access to the entirety of the employee profile, and this is obviously dependent on the permissions of your planners or managers. Once that submit happens, you'll see that some of these worksheets are actually already either in progress or pending approval. And what we're looking to do is update within the employee profile those new changes with a reason, and ultimately give you out at the end of this event a report that has the full list of all the changes that happened, the reason why, any guidelines or information that you need, and make it very, very easy to pull this out either directly from here or through any one of our out-of-the-box company reports. Now, we have also added this wonderful dashboard of KPIs, which you will either see or you will see when you join Bob, which helps you post-event to break down those changes in the event and those upgrades and additions and changes to salaries by any demographic that you have within the organization. So for instance, if I want to jump in here and understand what were my changes during this event by department, can very easily visualize that through here and even click into each department and get the full list of the changes. I can do this with other fields like gender, for instance, and really break down into my event what were the changes and really drill into my data to understand overall as an organization, how are we promoting, how are we increasing, and does our team, is our team really happy with those changes? What we're looking to do, as I said, is eventually also push this data out into any other system that needs to be updated, but still give you that very easy dashboard to visualize the changes, although those are all also available at the individual level within the profiles. So that was a super quick demo. We usually take about an hour to run through the whole entire thing. I recommend if you're interested in any way and want to learn more, speak to any one of us, speak to any one of your account managers or anyone on our sales team. We'd be happy to dive in deeper, hear a little bit about what you're doing today, and show you how we can help to improve that process and cut down your times and create more collaboration within the organization. So hopefully that helps at least to give a little bit of a high-level overview of what we have and what we're building. Any questions before I hand the microphone back to Ollie?
Yeah, so thank you so much, Raz. I'm not seeing any questions here right away, but of course I'll keep monitoring here until the end of the session. But yeah, thank you so much for showing us a little bit. You know, our product team has been hard at work for over a year on this compensation management module. You know, trying to take what's traditionally a very impersonal process, you know, comp, money, that lives in Excel spreadsheets or in cells, and turning it into something that fits very much within the HiBob ethos of creating an engaging, transparent, and fair and equitable work environment for your employees. You know, we talked a little bit about the compensation management module and then also the KPIs, which will be released at the end of the month. And so we're so excited to share this with you. You know, right now, I'm going to pop a poll on the screen. So if you are interested in seeing a personalized overview of the compensation management tool, please select one of the following, and we will go ahead and be sure that we get in contact, set something up to try and make sure that you see what you need to see. Additionally, I want to remind everyone while the poll is up, we also do have 2 free handouts available for you today. One of them is our Comp Plans 101, which is a guide to creating your very first compensation plan. For people who are just starting out and thinking about this, I would say this is a great resource that could be really helpful for you. We also have a guide here on why you should manage compensation using HR technology. This talks a little bit about efficiency within that process and how technology can help smooth out any errors or cracks within your compensation strategy. So I highly recommend this as well. And I'm going to leave the poll open for just another, let's say 15 to 20 seconds as we get settled. But please go through and download those handouts. I believe we've gotten through all of our individual questions in the chat. But with that in mind, we're coming up to the end of today's session. So, I really want to thank everyone on the line for their time. Thank you so much, Claudia and Khatidja, again, for sharing such expert insights with us. Thank you to Raz for showing us a little bit of what the HiBob product team has been cooking up in the compensation management world over the last year. And thank you all to everybody who attended. I know compensation can be one of those really tricky things, and it's so different at every company, but I hope that the insights we shared today from a couple of expert practitioners in the field can really help you guide your strategy moving forward as we close out the year here. So if you have any additional questions for us, I'm always here. My name's Ali. You can reach me at ali.fazal, ali.fazal at hibob.com. Happy to answer any questions or concerns for you. But until then, I will see you at the next webinar. Thank you so much for your time today, and we'll be in touch. Thank you very much.